A 40-ton whale hears a sound from miles away. It doesn't know who's dying. It doesn't know who's attacking. It just turns and swims straight toward the danger. In the next few minutes, you'll find out why humpback whales are doing something scientists still can't fully explain. This isn't a mother protecting her calf. This isn't a whale defending its own kind. In case after documented case, humpback whales have thrown themselves into violent confrontations to save animals they've never met, animals they don't even eat. Something is driving this behavior, and it isn't hunger. In 2016, marine ecologist Robert Pitman published something strange. He'd compiled 115 documented interactions between humpback whales and orcas, spanning 62 years of observation. What he found inside that data would upend everything researchers assumed about whale behavior and about the emotional lives of these animals. Here's the detail that stopped researchers cold. In 89% of those 115 encounters, the humpbacks started it. They weren't caught in the crossfire of someone else's hunt. They actively sought out orcas that were hunting and moved in to stop them. This wasn't defense. This was intervention. Now here's where it gets even stranger. In more than half of these interventions, over 54%, the animals being saved weren't humpback whales at all. Harbor seals, sea lions, gray whale calves, even ocean sunfish. Completely different species, sharing nothing with the humpback except the same ocean and the same enemy. 2009, Antarctica. Robert Pitman is watching a hunting pod of orcas corner a Weddell seal on a small ice floe. The orcas start washing waves to knock it into the water. Then something happens that shouldn't happen. A humpback whale surfaces and inserts itself directly between the seal and its killers. The humpback rolls onto its back. Its massive chest breaks the surface, and the terrified seal scrambles onto it, using the whale's own body as a life raft. Every time the seal starts sliding off into the water, the humpback nudges it back into place with a flipper the size of a small boat. Think about what's happening here. A 40-ton predator's natural enemy, rescuing prey it will never eat, using energy it will never get back, taking a genuine physical risk, all to protect an animal from a completely different species that offers it absolutely nothing in return. If this had happened once, you could call it an accident, a strange fluke caught on camera. But it didn't happen once. It happened dozens of times, across decades, across oceans, involving different individual whales that had never met each other. Something consistent is driving this, and it isn't random. Before we go further, you need to understand who the humpbacks are actually fighting, because this isn't a story about gentle giants stumbling into danger. This is a story about a war, one being fought beneath the surface, one most people never think about at all. If stories like this, the hidden, unexplained corners of animal behavior, are the kind of thing that pulls you in, subscribe now, because what we're about to get into next gets a lot darker and a lot more disturbing than one whale saving one seal. Not all orcas hunt the same way. The ones in this story are called transient orcas, specialized hunters that target marine mammals instead of fish. They move in coordinated pods. They weigh up to 6 tons each. And when they commit to a hunt, they very rarely walk away empty-handed. Transient orcas don't hunt like sharks in a single violent strike. They hunt like wolves. They exhaust their prey first, ramming it, dragging it under, working in coordinated waves until the animal can't fight back anymore. It's slow, it's calculated, and it can take hours to finish. Here's a fact worth sitting with. Adult humpback whales are almost never successfully killed by orcas. They're simply too large, too powerful, too capable of fighting back with their tails and flippers. By every measure, a grown humpback has nothing personal to fear from these hunts. Young humpback whales are a different story entirely. Calves are exactly the kind of target transient orcas prefer, slower, smaller, and far more vulnerable than their mothers. For a baby humpback separated from its pod, an orca hunting party can be a death sentence. So if adult humpbacks are safe, why are they still risking everything every time they hear an orca hunt underway? Why intervene at all, especially for a species they've never even interacted with before? For years, this question had no satisfying answer. Then researchers proposed something unsettling. Here's the detail that changes the entire story. Humpbacks aren't watching these hunts happen and then deciding to help. They're responding to sound, specifically to the unique vocalizations orcas make while actively hunting, a sound pattern completely different from their normal calls. That means something remarkable. A humpback miles away hears that hunting call and starts swimming toward it immediately, before knowing anything about who's under attack. Not the species, not the size of the threat, not even whether it's another humpback. It just hears danger and moves. By the time the humpback arrives at the scene, it's already committed. Only then does it discover what's actually happening, sometimes finding one of its own kind in danger, and sometimes finding a seal or a sunfish, a creature it has no biological reason to protect at all. And this is where the story stops being simple. If humpbacks are responding purely to the sound of hunting orcas, not to who's being hunted, then this isn't really about seals or sunfish or gray whale calves. Those animals just happen to be standing in the blast radius of something bigger. Here's the theory that's gained serious traction among researchers, though it remains a hypothesis, not a proven fact. Some scientists believe adult humpbacks may be carrying trauma from their own childhoods, memories, or deeply ingrained instincts formed from moments they themselves were hunted as vulnerable calves. Under this theory, the sound of a hunting orca doesn't just signal danger to another creature. It may trigger something older, a defensive response wired into the humpback from its most vulnerable period of life. The adult isn't calmly choosing altruism. It might be reacting to an old, buried alarm. If this hypothesis holds, then the seals, the sea lions, the sunfish being saved aren't really the point. They're beneficiaries of a much older, much more personal war, one waged against a memory as much as a predator. Their survival becomes collateral good fortune, not the humpback's actual goal. This distinction matters because it separates two very different explanations. One version paints humpbacks as calculated, compassionate defenders of ocean life. The other paints them as traumatized giants, lashing out at the sound of a predator that once hunted them, with other species simply caught in the aftermath. Let's be clear about what we actually know here. It's confirmed that adult humpbacks are rarely killed by orcas. It's confirmed they respond specifically to hunting vocalizations. What remains speculation is the emotional mechanism behind it. Whether trauma, memory, or something else entirely drives that response. Whatever the true cause, one thing isn't up for debate. Every time a humpback charges into one of these confrontations, it's risking real injury. Tail slaps from a 6-ton orca, bites aimed at sensitive areas. This isn't a symbolic gesture. It's a physical fight with real consequences. And remember, there's no food reward waiting at the end of this. Humpback whales are filter feeders. They survive on krill and small schooling fish. A rescued seal offers them nothing, not a single calorie. Every one of these interventions is a pure cost, with no biological payoff attached. Multiply this out across 62 years of documented encounters across oceans worldwide, and you start to see something bigger than isolated rescues. You start to see a pattern of behavior so consistent, so widespread, that calling it coincidence stops being a reasonable explanation. Picture it from the humpback's side for a moment. It hears a sound. It doesn't know the victim. It doesn't know the odds. It swims toward violence anyway, absorbs the physical risk, and walks away with nothing to show for it, except one less orca hunt completed successfully. This forces us to reconsider what we think we know about the ocean beneath the surface. Not a lawless free-for-all, but a place where something resembling old grudges, deep-seated defensive instinct, or unexplained cross-species solidarity plays out again and again, largely unseen by anyone standing on shore. There's something deeply human about this story, whether or not the humpbacks intend it that way. A creature shaped by an old trauma, reacting instinctively to a sound that echoes a threat from its own vulnerable past, even when the current danger has nothing to do with it directly. We asked at the start whether these whales are simply saving strangers, or whether they're fighting a private war shaped by memories none of us can access. The honest answer, based on what science currently confirms, is that it might be both at once, tangled together in a single instinct. Researchers still don't know for certain whether humpbacks feel something we'd recognize as compassion, or whether this is pure, hardwired instinct with no emotional experience attached at all. That question sits at the edge of what current science can measure, and may stay unanswered for a long time. So here's what's worth sitting with after this video ends. If a 40-ton animal can be driven to repeatedly risk its life for total strangers based on a sound alone, what does that say about the line between instinct and something closer to memory or grief? If this pulled you into a side of the ocean you never knew existed, subscribe, because there are far stranger, far more unsettling stories about the hidden lives of marine animals still waiting beneath the surface. The whales keep their reasons quiet, but now you know a little more than most.